you doing?
Good. Yes. Not long.
Did you get taller?
I hope.
All right, we're here at Doorbell Diaries with.
Mylantha Williams.
So, Mylantha, I'm so glad to have you. Can you give us a short introduction about who you are, what you do?
My name is Mylantha Williams again. I'm actually a mental health practitioner in JCPS school, elementary school. And so I work with kids, and that has always been my mission, is to work with kids. And also I am a co-founder of Jacob's Ladder Outreach. And we do outreach for unhoused individuals in our community. Our focus is to build community and help strengthen those ties for folks who are living out on the streets, and also help provide resources and figure out next steps. So we're there just to be a support system.
Okay, so I guess the first question, could you share a backstory of how Jacob's Ladder, charged with combating homelessness, what inspired its creation?
So I'm going to say we're a bunch of volunteers. So my backstory is, again, I worked with kids. After grad school, I needed something to do. I needed to get back into volunteering and was trying to figure out what to do. And actually online, I ran into somebody else who was doing the work and invited me out to what used to be almost like a big free open market down at the waterfront, and it was originated for folks who were unhoused to come down and get a warm meal, and then clothing or whatever supplies that volunteers wanted to bring down. So it was everybody just pitching in. And then there was teams that would go out through the city and just find folks in camps or those who couldn't make it down to the waterfront to get supplies and food. And so I just hitched in. I think I started one week, went again the next week, and then it just was like, let me go again. Let me see what's going on. You start meeting people, you start getting to know stories. And so I was with the Forgotten Louisville for, can't even remember off the top of my head. There's a running joke that we're like doing it for 5 to 10 years, and then you have to think back and count. But I was with them for a while, and we just had built up a big, strong, volunteer base before COVID downtown. And so folks would get in their cars, come out with supplies. We'd potluck food meals and make sure there was more meals, and then we'd set out tables. And so a group of us broke off and started servicing the South End, where there wasn't a lot of services or a lot of outreach in that part of town. And so that group of us broke out. And you start thinking about, as you're doing these things, like it's real good to go out and provide meals and to provide, family and community and resources and all those things. But you just start feeling like you're not making progress. Like, you are, just by doing those things, you're being a benefit, but you want to do more. So there was a lot of us like, what else can we do? We've been in this for a few years. Like, how can we make more change? And so we sat down and just outlined what we wanted to do, like the different places we wanted to go tour, figure out what we wanted, how we wanted to help people, like really figure out what our resources were, so that we could share and provide and educate ourselves. And I feel like that was probably like about the year before COVID hit. And then everybody went inside and not as many volunteers came out just to protect people. So in that time, we're still thinking about these things and figuring out what to do. And we decided to start a nonprofit. And that's where it started with Jacob's Ladder. It's actually named after a gentleman who had his own outreach named Jacob Boger, and he would go out. He also started a church downtown and a center where he wanted to provide similar resources like we wanted to. So provide resources. There's a food kitchen, there's clothing pantry, there was all kinds of things downtown. So I never met him in person. Most of our group had. So they wanted to carry on his mission after he passed away. And so that's where the name came from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is Amazing. So, the mission statement of the organization. So, what is the mission statement, and how does it guide your work effectively?
So we wanted to provide progressive community supports to folks who are unhoused. And we started with that because, like I said, we know that the food in the community is super important. Folks have community down there. I don't want to take that away. And they have families. But it's when you're living on the streets, you sometimes kind of get stuck in this rut, whether it's from yourself or from the community at large of where you belong and where you fit in and where you feel comfortable. So, and there's some anxiety with just trying to fit back in. So just being, I don't like sounding like we're coming in and just like opening the doors and just like, saving everyone. It's just being there for people and showing people that people still care and we're here for you when you need. We also want to make sure when someone's ready, that we're there to help them take the next step. So if it's treatment, it's figuring out housing. If it's just celebrating that they got resources through any way, it's important to have those people to be able to celebrate those things with you or to talk about some of the issues that are going on. So providing progressive supports through community and resources is important to us, making sure even when people get into housing, we keep in touch and they're not removing themselves from one community and then feeling completely alone, which sometimes happens. And then our goal is to provide safe housing for folks. And so that's part of our goal is to, we're working on a village right now and making sure it's a community that provides supports, not just sticking somebody someplace. It's nice to get folks off the street, but we want to really be true housing first, where we're helping people get acclimated to what they once knew, because you lose some of that stuff when you're struggling and trying to survive. Some of that stuff goes out the window. And so being able to feel safe again, being able to know where your next meal comes from, learning how to do some of those things again is super important. And we don't want folks to just get stuck somewhere and not have community, which happens often.
All right. So another question, in what ways do you collaborate with other stakeholders, local business, local government, volunteers? Of course, you explain volunteers. So how do you collaborate with, say, local government and other businesses, or even the community at large, the public at large, as far as resources to reach your objectives? Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you, it's hard to do this work without doing so. You're going to hit a wall. You're going to get burnt out. You have to talk about what's going on. You have to connect with others. And there's a lot of agencies out there, nonprofit agencies, folks not getting paid out there on the streets, providing the same resources and supports. We come from another nonprofit and we stay in touch with them. We stay in touch with the other groups who are out there on the streets. It's super important for us to be able to communicate and figure out who has what resources that they can share and just who can help who, because people move all over trying to find a safe place to sleep. So that's an obvious, sticking with the other groups who are doing the work. But also as we find need, we start learning about other resources that are out there. So some of the other agencies, mental health agencies, finding folks who are willing to go, and meet our friends where they are. So not everybody can get to, an office somewhere. So it's been very important to me to connect with folks that I already work with in the schools and who serve my kids and my families at school, and figure out who is able to just kind of, meet somebody in a coffee shop or meet somebody in a community center or things like that and provide services that way. With our project of building a safe community and of tiny homes, we are reaching out to everybody that we know, figuring out who's interested, and the biggest and most important thing is educating folks on what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how folks who are living on the street are affected. So it's not just what everybody assumes. There's a lot that goes into living on the street or ending up on the street. Everybody has a different story of why they're out there. And I can say a handful of folks who are on my board and work with me through volunteering with this organization, they've had those experiences too. I've personally had it as a kid. I've had family member who passed away on the street. So we all come from and understand pieces of it. I can't say understand it as an adult. So making sure that I carry on other people's stories and help people understand what it feels like, how it affects your mental health, how it affects you being able to pull yourself out of it by your bootstraps, and even just the services that are available, how difficult it is to manage, get there, and actually be able to take advantage of some of those services because of how they're set up. So making sure folks know about that. So education is a huge piece.
Okay, so last question. Not the last question, because there's some other things that personally I wanted to ask you about, but looking ahead, what are the key needs and resources your organization needs to continue the impactful work in combating homelessness?
Volunteers, money, donations. So the street work requires like just hands-on. And I'm gonna tell you, folks come out once and it's like, I'm coming next week and I'm coming again, because you start forming relationships. It feels like a family. It is important for us to set up tables and spend like an hour in one place. It's important for us to go to the same place over and over and over again so that folks know that they can show up every Wednesday, be able to talk about something that's happened, be able to joke around, be able to celebrate, getting housing, be able to be in housing and come back and, check in and see what's going on and just be able to visit with people. So it's important for us to have that family feel where we sit down, have conversations, get served, and have supplies. So having people there and being there and coming back and being part of the family is super important. The money piece is super important. And just thinking about how you can help. What expertise do you have? If it's not coming out and helping in that way, I have a whole list of ways that you can help with starting this tiny home village, making sure like the donations, the money, the volunteer work, helping with fundraising, helping with activities, connecting us with people, getting us out there to educate folks on what we're doing, hosting presentations at your church, your community center, your home, having a dinner and letting us come talk. So there are so many ways. And then just letting us come in and share, whether it's about Eden Village or just helping you understand what is going on in our community and how you can help.
Okay, now for my question, I wanted to, we always hear about, homelessness. Mm-hmm. And when you're speaking to people, you're speaking about what you're trying to do to combat this. When you're in the field and seeing the faces, the personalities mm-hmm. of the individuals that you help, and I'm sure when you started, you just kept going back day after day. What makes you continue to do it? Even after, say, like you said, you're celebrating people getting housed. And also, how do you keep from, do you focus on the successes and maybe not the not so desirable outcomes to keep you going?
For sure. Well, and successes are hard, and they're different. So, and it's really hard to have that conversation with folks. I was asked that question about what did we see? We did a self-care day, and what was the result we saw? And a lot of people want us to say, well, someone got a haircut and they got new shoes and they went and got a job and they got housing immediately. You know what? They went and got a haircut, got new shoes. They were able to sit down and talk with me about something. They were able to go to dinner and not feel so anxious because there was all their people around. There are so many different successes that you count. And it's not the obvious of like, oh my goodness, you showed up here, so therefore I'm going to be able to do anything. No, I'm here. And so I know that you're going to show up every week, or somebody is going to show up every week. I know you're going to be here at this time. People know sometimes we're going to run late, but they're going to come here, So the success is being able to, to come in and experience other people. Some people don't want to come out of their camps, don't want to mingle with folks for whatever reason, different mental health issues, like even anxiety. I have a few people that I go to breakfast with every few months, and we check in with each other. And just those first days of going into a restaurant and just being so worried about what's going on around them, who's looking, nobody's caring, they're eating. Everybody's in there to eat. And so after a while, you start seeing that change of like, okay, this is what it feels like. We're here as friends, we're here talking, and it's all those little tiny bits. And I get that question a lot about, what it feels like, because you see a lot of negative. You see, like, you lose people out here, a lot of people. So having those successes, like at least they had somebody there for them. At least they have a group of people who knew their name and will grieve them, or reach out to their family, or connect them with family if they're in the hospital. Like, you have that support system. So it's something that you get from folks too. Like, it's not just what you give out. Like, there's a lot of love exchanged. People check on you. People want to know how you're doing if you don't show up or what's going on. Like, you learn to take care of each other. And so, I know I can go out there and I'm taken care of just as much as I take care of people that I amount to support. So that's what keeps people coming back. Like, you remember names, you see faces, you hear stories, and these are your friends and your family. So you want to make sure you're back out there checking to see if they're okay, or if they need anything, or just to sit at a table and like catch up.
So it's like you're out there finding real friends that you're helping. Mm-hmm. So I've even found myself, sometimes it's overwhelming. Like, you see things that you see people in situations that you couldn't imagine yourself in. Mm-hmm. And the easy thing to do is, if I can do it, they can do it. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't see why. And why would, if I was them, I would just go put in an application. Mm-hmm. Well, kind of the first couple of lines on the application is what?
Your address, your name, your phone number.
Do you have an ID?
Yeah.
How do you feel like I-9 forms? So what gets a person to that point? We have no idea. Nobody has any idea. And it's less about not having a place to shelter and more about what got you to that point. And then being in the mental health field, I'm sure, like you said, you hear these stories. Mm-hmm. And some of these stories they're beyond like anything you could imagine. So those, like you said, those small wins, just getting a person to come out and talk to you. Like, so how do you keep that from affecting your everyday life? Like, how do you keep that? Like, how do you keep some amount of sanity, for lack of a better term?
Well, and I'm going to address one thing real quick, is the stories aren't that outlandish. Mm-hmm. Like, I've run into people who've owned their own businesses, fell off a ladder and broke their back. And so how, like, your money goes fast. I don't know how many of us has savings enough for a year to take care of us for a year if something were to happen, or 6 months or 3 months, so it's simple like that. And then who do you have to fall back on? Like, were you the breadwinner for everybody? Were you the support for everybody? So if you fall down, is somebody there to catch you? Like, it's simple things. It's mental health. It's like physical health. It's domestic violence. You have to leave and you have nowhere to go. The resources are stretched thin in this town. And so to be able to leave and have a place to go, even with kids, you're not going to find someplace. You're not going to be able to immediately walk in and say, hey, I have kids, I'd like to come in. No. I remember even 10 years ago, families having to sleep in their car for a night with their kids before they could get into a shelter. So, like, there's little things like that people don't realize. it doesn't take much for you to be out there. It takes just not having that support system, or having somebody who you can depend on, or even believing you have somebody you could depend on. Not everybody thinks that, I can go ask my sibling or ask my friend to crash on their couch. Not everybody thinks that way. And then there is the mental health of it, like the anxiety, the worry, the deep mental health, where like you're not taking your medication anymore, or it hasn't been regulated appropriately, and you just aren't in a space to be able to take care of yourself the way you want to. So I wanted to address that, and then I already forgot the other question. I think it was about how do you keep going without it wearing on you. And I feel like it is important to set boundaries. And I really, personally, I have different boundaries, and we all have different boundaries. So I know that I work with kids and I work with families, and I hear really hard stuff, and I deal with hard things in my job. So I know that I can't constantly take another job or another volunteer job and just immerse myself so deeply in it, because I know how far I can go, and I've had to learn that. And so I know what my boundaries are. I know when to turn things on and off. I know that I'm working with adults, and that adults make their own decisions. And no matter how bossy I am, I'm the oldest in my family. I want to tell people about themselves. Going to school has has taught me to kind of scale back and allow folks to make those decisions, and scale back on the advice. I still do. I'm be a big sister for a minute, and I still use that phrase every once in a while. But adults are making their decisions, and I am not in control of anybody's life. I'm not anybody's savior. I'm not out here coming to scoop you up and do whatever. I'm out here just to lend a shoulder, provide support as needed, and then knowing when I can't. I can't. There's weeks that I check in with my group, and I'm like, I'm not going out this week. My mental health is in a space where I need to take a break. And so just knowing those things, and knowing what you're willing to do and how far you're willing to go, and just being there for people when you can, but knowing sometimes you can't always.
That is amazing. That I want to make this a recurring thing. For one, to really let people know about Jacob's Ladder. And I think even me, people tend to think, okay, homelessness, I'll just give some money. Hey, I'll show up one day and cook some food. But all the things that are involved, it's not just, it's volunteers in probably, I guess, every field, whether it's healthcare, whether it's food, whether it's, I don't know, you would know. Give me an example of all the, say food service, for instance, say healthcare, for instance. What are the major things you guys need assistance on?
It's really some of our systems that are in place, trying to figure out how to maneuver them and help people. You can pick one thing, and I could tell you about the different barriers to getting services, or the support or lack of support there is in those agencies.
Food service. So my expertise is food service. What could I do to help?
Cook. I know one of my co-founder, her big thing is she's retired. She does everything she can. So one of her missions is to make sure she cooks a meal, but that gets tiring. She'll do it every week. We have one group who provides one week out of the month for us, and then there's different people who will come in as they can. So providing food, providing a meal for people. Say
I didn't cook, so I'm always in communication with food vendors that the company I work for, that we purchase our food from. If I got these food vendors to be able to donate food, where could they send it to? Because say I'm too busy to cook, but the food is there to be able to send it. What location could I send that food to, or what place?
So we have the same person who cooks. She's always willing to go around and collect.
Okay.
So she will pick up donations. We have a couple freezers and some shelves where we keep donated food so that she can cook. Or there's people who will cook and may not have the funds to go get the food for 40 people. So she'll make sure they get that, and they'll cook for the week. So yeah, there's that. There's a lot of like us running and getting things and meeting people and seeing how we can get the supplies. So if you're coming out with hygiene supplies, just let one of us know. Somebody's gonna show up and get it, or meet us someplace. Food supplies, blankets, tarps, tents, socks. Socks have been very plentiful, thankfully. Right now we're still in the sterno season. The little sternos for heating meals. Those are used to heat up tents. I've worked with my school in collecting the big cans over the winter, and so we'll make sure that they can put sternos in there and we're not burning down tents too. And then during the summer, we're getting into the bug season. So bug spray, tarps for when it's raining, tents. Like, we still need blankets during the summer. Folks back off of that because it's not cold. But sometimes it's cold, or you just want to make a bed. So just underwear, I always call underwear the unicorn. Like, we're not getting used underwear. But so you don't have a lot of people donating, like giving brand new underwear. So just that, a lot of stuff that you would either need camping or just be able to fit in. And be able to change your clothes, be able to take a shower if you need to, or wash up wherever you are, or throw some deodorant on. Just all those things that, you would feel comfortable with is what's needed out there. And so we collect that. And we go around and pick it up, meet people where they are.
That's amazing. It's because I've always thought about what I could provide, and it's just food. I'd never thought about underwear. Mm-hmm. Underclothes.
Nobody.
Blankets in the summertime.
Yeah.
Like, these are things, because I'm unaware, because as of now, I'm not in that situation. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important that people understand, like, the same things, the things that we take for granted, the things we go blind to. Like, we go blind to a lot of things that are necessities, but they're so easily attained for those that don't have that issue, that we just look over it. It's like, hey, here's a coat. Yeah, but underclothes.
Yeah, underclothes. And just even thinking about, and that's one problem we have too, it's a problem, is the types of donation. Mm-hmm. So we are not a big group. Even with our board, we're a small working board doing big work. But just the group of us who run around getting the donations and are trying to be there every week, we're not huge. So I have really learned to limit what I take. So you may reach out and say, you know what, I have some extra large or I'm going to say 3XL. We've gotten like tons of donations of those kind of things. They're not anything that we can use. So it's really being thoughtful of knowing the folks that you're donating to, knowing if you're skipping a couple meals, you're definitely not going to be big enough to fit into some of those clothes. During winter time, it's a little more feasible because we like to layer, but I can't. It's overwhelming to be just like, you know what, I cleaned out my closet, here's all the stuff. So we are very, I'm very forward on, these are the sizes that we need. This is what we're willing to take, because I don't have a lot of time to go through my garage and continuously keep up the stock. So it may seem rude to others, but I really do have to keep up on, we don't need that, we don't need this. I can't give that out. Nobody's going to take this. It's just going to sit in my garage until I have spring break to be able to clean it up. So
another question. So I know a lot of times people spring cleaning clothes, get rid of it. And the first thing people do is take it to Goodwill. I don't even know if DAV still exists now, but take it to Goodwill. Where are some places where, as a community, we can take clothes that can be used immediately without someone having to purchase them? Like, where, the location. So what's the address for?
So we have a P.O. box.
Okay, P.O. box.
Yes. And I'll have to look that up.
Okay. And this, we can edit this and get all this together.
Yeah. So we have a P.O. box that stuff can be sent to. Especially if you're not here in town. I wouldn't want you to waste money on mailing stuff. Really, if you reach out to us, we're going to show up and meet you somewhere or come pick it up or something.
Can we contact you through email?
Yes.
Okay.
Start there.
Okay.
So
What's
our
the email?
Email is jacobsladder, jacobsladder502 @gmail.com.
Perfect. So it's even easier than taking it out of your house to go drop it off at Goodwill.
Yes.
You can call, have it set by your door, you know.
And the phone number, let me get the phone number.
Okay.
These things, nobody memorizes these things anymore. I know my phone number. So our phone number is 502-780-3060.
Or the email
is jacobsladder502 @gmail.com.
Perfect. So they're right together in this video. We'll edit it, get it together, get this nice and concise.
And then we're on Facebook, Jacob's Ladder Outreach, Instagram, Jacob's Ladder Outreach. Now we're on TikTok, Jacob's Ladder Outreach. So there's many ways to contact us.
Hell yeah. Like, I've learned, in this short amount of time, I've learned a lot because people that don't have to deal with those issues always imagine, and there's a lot of stuff they leave out. Like, if I were them, I would drive and go put an application. Like, yeah, kind of not.
Drive what?
Yeah, like, and it, like you said, it doesn't take much.
And then think about who is, and I know jobs are maybe a little more plentiful because folks are different about how they work or what kind of time they put in. But still, like, if you show up and you're not clean, or if you show up and you have, a history with jail or prison, I mean, people are still being very picky about who works, and it doesn't make any sense.
I'm being a hiring manager within the last year since I've been back with 3 individuals. One worked for a month, and I was talking about a perfect worker. Loved this person to death. They showed up on time, got the job done, showed up, did overtime. Like, they were there, Johnny on the spot. I got a call that said, you need to terminate them immediately because of their background.
And those are the
and they wouldn't even give me an explanation. I'm trying to explain, no, y'all don't get it. Like, dude, like, is he arrestable right now? Like, does he have a warrant now?
How does it affect that employer?
Right.
Like, what? So they're...
And the crazy thing is, this wasn't even somebody on site. This is, of course, HR is never on site anymore.
No.
This is HR in whatever state where where the headquarters is. Another 2 times, people lost their jobs where attendance was affected because they were homeless.
Yeah.
So, I'm
Didn't
asking.
Have an alarm.
Yeah,
get up.
Yeah, I'm asking hey, what's going
bus.
on?
Yeah.
Yeah, or they have to take off. It was one situation. The last point had to take off because they had to go meet at an appointment so they can get their apartment and no longer be homeless. Well, they were like, well, James, that's the last point. I'm not going to fire them. Yeah, I'm not going to fire them. Like, if you want to do it, you come down here right now and do it.
Yeah.
They didn't do it. The person still has their job to this day.
There was a program, and I think that a lot of really good stuff really ended when everything shut down, like some of these nonprofits. But there was a church over in the Portland neighborhood who put on a program. People came nationwide, and they had a simulation of what it felt like to live in poverty, to live homeless. Not all the way. So folks would stay on the gym floor, but you were sleeping in a tent with a sleeping bag. And then they would set up scenarios because the school that I work in was one of the locations that you could come volunteer. So they would set scenarios like, you would be this person and here's your package. And these are all the things that you have gone through. This is your background. And so they would call up the school and don't let these folks in yet. We're going to let them wait about 30 minutes. And then I want you to go out and tell Mr. Joseph that he cannot come in and work at this school because he has a background that doesn't allow him in the door. And then they would set up appointments purposely, like you have to be at the food pantry and also a housing appointment at the same time. Which are you going to do? and you have kids with you. And so they would do all this stuff, and like people didn't believe. There was some people would like start donating to different organizations, and really it helped folks understand what it takes to be poor. Like you don't get to, make your schedule the way you want it to be. You have to show up, or people are just like, meh, that's who you are. So, you don't get these resources. So it's not the same as me being 5 minutes late and driving across town, or like, oh, let me call you on my cell phone or text you or let you know, I'm going to be there. Like I get to have the personality, and I'm not wore out in survival mode and tired. So I get to do some of these things. But I'm also not working with agencies who are just like next. So if you don't show up, then I'm going to go with the next person.
Yep.
So it's interesting until you have to do it. And you realize when you're poverty level, you don't get as many chances or resources or support as if you have the money to do it yourself.
And you tend to come across people that think it's whatever situation you're in, it's your fault. And it's not like that. Like nobody has the dream to, hey, when I grow up, I'm gonna. It's just some things out of your control.
Stuff spirals, falls apart.
It can knock the fight out of you.
Yeah. And you just end up with mental health. You end up with substance use disorder. Like you end up with things that just take over your life, and you have to fight out of that before you can start focusing on other things. So it's hard to tell somebody what to do when the brain is focused on something else at this point. You have to rewire it and get yourself back to a point where, it feels steady. It feels good.
Wow. I loved having this conversation. Oh my God, I've learned a lot. And I'm gonna use my skills to better help. And I'm gonna be calling you to see where I can fit in.
I got places all over. And really, I'm not going to give out, and I'll be honest, I would rather people contact me and see where they can come and what they can do. I'm not just going to say, hey, this is the location where we are. Because that's another piece is, while we are not going straight into the camp, there's also folks that show up and want to feel safe and comfortable. And we've had people show up and curse us out. And like we've had folks have tents burnt down, from outsiders. And so I'm not about like saying this is where to show up, but if you want to help, reach out to us and we'll do the next steps. And,
okay.
I mean, we're in a good spot where it's public and you can show up, but I don't like just broadcasting because I don't know who will.
Right.
And what kind of conversations I have to have with people.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's understood. So hopefully we can have more conversations.
For sure.
We can kind of see like how things progress through the seasons, like how the needs, how the needs change through the seasons. Because right now, it's cool outside.
It's different. I'm gonna tell you, as the seasons change, like when it gets very, very cold, white flag is when folks are allowed to go into shelters without barrier. So it's like when it's super cold and we don't want people out there freezing to death, or it's super hot and we don't want people out there dying in the heat. And around those times, pop-up shelters come about because a lot of the folks doing the work are able to kind of come together. It's a lot of work. So when you see any of that, I know there was a couple like downtown and some in the south end. They were spread out all over town, and it's becoming a little easier for folks to put up pop-up shelters and get donations. It is still super difficult to get like volunteers and people willing to come in and provide support and be there and man those pop-up shelters for the hours that they're open to allow people to stay warm and not, die out on the street. So when you see those, and if you have the time to come, provide volunteer services, like any donations, things like that, please jump in, because we can always use as much support as possible, because the people who are manning those services are usually already out on the streets helping, and it gets tiring. You can't do that overnight multiple times in the week and then still try to work your job and things like that, because a lot of people are still working. So just pay attention. There's always opportunities. You'll see it on the news. And if you see something, just, contact those organizations and offer up the support you can. Even if it's coming in and cooking and cleaning and at your comfort level, there's usually somebody there that can manage, the stuff that may feel uncomfortable to you, but we just need bodies.
Okay, I'm definitely interested. I will, outside of this interview, I'll make it a point to do things because I have way more time available than I know what to do with. So I'll
take time.
be assistant because, of course, now I'm an empty nester. So
Oh,
I got to find something to do. It's either
right.
that or the vices that end up becoming way too much fun. So I choose the latter or the former to help people, kind of fit in somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, once again, this is Mylantha Williams from Jacob's Ladder. We'll be getting back with her pretty soon, or over time, different seasons, different times, just to kind of check in and see how things are going, what's needed, how we can move forward and continue to help and combat houselessness.
Yay, we all can do it.
Yes. Thank you so much.
All right.